Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just Reading Podcast. I hope everyone out there is doing well. I hope you're staying hydrated. I hope you are having a wonderful time and just being thankful for this day. And I hope you've been getting into some good books. I really do. Share and tell me, what books have you been reading? What have you been loving in this hot summertime? All right, let's dive right into the episode, guys. Today, we're going to review book two from the Twisted series by Anna Huang. And it's book two is titled Twisted Games. Twisted Games is a royal bodyguard romance. It's got an age gap. It's enemies to lovers. It's got grumpy sunshine and a pining hero. Some of my favorite tropes. It follows Rhys, who is a next no, he is an ex Navy SEAL, and Bridget, who is the crown princess of a small country in Europe called Eldora. Eldora, I think is the name of the country. She's also the spare to the heir, her brother, her older brother. Bridget is away at college in the States, and she hasn't been home to her home country. She hasn't been to her home country in years while she's studying. She has a bodyguard that has been with her the whole time she's been away from her home. However, he has to return to their country because of family issues and reasons. And so she has to get a new bodyguard. Enter Rhys. Rhys is a contractor. So the crown decided to contract out the bodyguard services for the crown princess. And Rhys was tasked to do it. He works for a security company with a friend of his, and he is a retired military guy. He was in the military for a little over 10 years, and he's seen a lot. He's got PTSD, massive PTSD, not just from his time in the military, but also from some childhood traumas that he had to go through. And so they meet, and it's immediate clashing of the wills. They do not get along. They are enemies from the get go. Rhys is stern. He's aggressive. He's arrogant. And rightfully so. He's a very, very good bodyguard. He takes no prisoners. And Bridget, she's sheltered. She's young. She is chomping at the bit. She doesn't always think that what Rhys thinks is necessary for her safety is actually necessary. And so they butt heads. And that starts their contentious relationship. But we all know it's not going to stay that way, right? It's going to smooth out, and they are going to end up with a beautiful, beautiful AGA. But first, they have to get there, and we have to go through it with them. So the story follows them for a course of 4 years. And I actually thought that was nice, because it gave us time as the readers to see the progression of their relationship. And I really like when authors do that. I'm not really a big fan of insta love. Attraction, yes, because that's quite possible. But the whole insta love sometimes can be a bit hard to connect with, right? So it follows them for 4 years. Now, in this series, each book is a standalone. However, it's in the same kind of world, and the characters sometimes cross over into the series, into each other's books, I should say. And so, book one followed one character, and book two follows now Bridget and Rhys. And there is a section of book two, Twisted Games, that is actually referenced from book one. And that is where Bridget gets kidnapped. And there is, that's the turning point for this book, book two, this is the turning point, where their relationship kind of it shifts, after that event happens for Bridget, because she realizes, oh wait, maybe there's something to what Rhys has been trying to tell me, right? And so her mindset shifts, and so it's referenced. So to keep it smooth as a reader, um, you can read book one and then go to book two to follow the progression of the series, but it is not completely necessary. You do not have to read book one in order to not be lost for book two. Book two is very much a standalone. The reference that the author does, is all you need, to be honest. But if you're a reader like me and you just need all the pieces to connect, then start with book one before you dive into book two. I had read book one a while ago. In fact, I think it's due for a reread. And I had book two on my TBR for the longest. And so I finally decided, let me just pick it up and, go through. Part of the reason why I did not dive right into this book is because of the royal element. And this is just a personal bias of mine. I'm not keen on, the royal trope, as I guess you could call that, in contemporary romances, and maybe because it's me. In general, the whole idea of royalty and the monarchy, seems a bit. It's interesting, and so when I see it written in contemporary novels, it's almost as if I have to build myself up to reading it, because depending on how the author decides to tell the story, it's just I just cannot connect with it. It's not a favorite trope of mine at all. Now I can read about royalty in fantasy for sure, in fiction, in fantasy romances, but when it comes to contemporary romances, it's hard to really dive into that. But Anna Huang did a decent job with it. She really did. I pushed my bias aside, and I enjoyed the story for what it was, and I do not regret that. So let's pick up from the shift in their relationship. So when Bridget gets kidnapped and Rhys saves her, they come to an arrangement. And Bridget decides, I'm going to stop fighting him on everything. And Rhys decides, he's going to try and be a bit more understanding. This is a young woman. She's in college. She's finding herself, he's 10 years her senior, 9 or 10 years her senior. So he's experienced a lot more. And then as the relationship shifts, the attraction starts to build, and they start to see each other as more than just, her seeing him as just a bodyguard and him seeing her as just a client. So the relationship starts to shift a little bit, and gradually, we follow them through as the relationship progresses. They get closer. He continues to do his job, and she continues to do her thing. She graduates college. She goes on to, almost fill in like a diplomatic role, still in the States. She doesn't move home right away. And she's a bit lost. She doesn't know what to do with herself. She knows she needs to do something that will help her country, but she's not really sure what. Her brother decides he's going to abdicate. And he abdicates because he falls in love. And her country has a rule from 300 years ago that the royals cannot marry, outside of a royal line. So royals have to marry royals, right? And so her brother falls in love with, someone who's not royal, and he has to abdicate. At this whole time, her grandfather is king, and he's ruling the country and training her brother for the role that he's going to take. Um, Trigger for loss of parents. She and her brother lost their parents when they were very young, and so they've been raised by their grandfather. And so, The grandfather is the one that's really running the country and holding it for her until her brother comes and takes over. But her brother has decided that he's going to abdicate, and Bridget now is thrown into the tailspin, and she doesn't know anything. No one was training her to become queen and to rule. Everyone was training her brother. She was literally just the spare. But now that her brother has decided he no longer wants the throne, he wants love, Bridget is thrown in. And this puts pressure on her that she never thought she'd be facing. And all this time her attraction to Rhys is building, and so is his attraction to her. And emotionally she's a wreck because she realizes that her whole life is going to change now, but she still has to do it for love of country. And so they she makes a bucket list. She makes a bucket list of all the things she wants to do before she is trapped in this life that she did not plan for. And Rhys decides that he's going to help her with some items on her bucket list. So they go off to try and tackle all those things, and their relationship gets even closer. He follows her to her home country, and he's there with her for a little while. And their relationship begins to get even more complex because the feelings they have for each other, it's not diminishing, it's growing, and it's getting to be even harder to resist each other. And at one point, they give in to temptation and they start a clandestine affair. And they sneak off to be together and they do all the things. And they realize that this is something else. This is something more than they thought. But there is a lot of political intrigue surrounding Bridget as well. And even Rhys has some secrets of his own that I shouldn't even call them secrets because they're not. He wasn't aware. There's something involving his birth history that comes to the forefront later on in the book, and it really sheds a light on some things that for the both of them, right, in their life. So her grandfather's not in the best of health, and he has an episode where he gets rushed off to the hospital once their affair is discovered. And Bridget blames herself that she was the one that caused her grandfather to have his episode and to almost die. And she tells Rhys that they have to end things. Rhys is a very possessive hero. He is not having it. She tells him that she needs to marry someone who is more acceptable to the throne. And he tells her no. And this is where the possessive hero comes in. He's like, "You're mine, and that's that. I'm not giving you up." And there is a split, but it's not the traditional third act breakup where there's like a misunderstanding and the couples are just not talking to each other, and like they talk it out. So Bridget talks to him and she tells him why this can't work, and he tells her like why he wants it to work, but he leaves her alone and he gives her time and he's wallowing. And then later on, he goes back to her and she doesn't push him away. She says, "Okay, we're gonna find a way. There's got to be a way to be together and for me to still rule my kingdom," because she has discovered that she actually likes being the crown princess, soon to be queen. Like, she sees that she can do a lot of good for her country, and she says, I don't want to give this up. Instead, we're going to change this law. And so she and Rhys decide that they're going to start doing things to get the law changed. And it was really, this book for me, once you get into it, it's actually felt, it gave me a cozy kind of vibe, which is interesting, right? When you look at the cover and you think Twisted Games, you think danger and suspense and like dark edginess. But it didn't feel that way to me at all. As I was reading it and just going through it with the characters, I was just like, actually, this is kind of nice. This is like a cozy kind of read. But so they they um where was I, guys? Oh, they're trying to get the law changed, right? So that as a royal, you can just marry. So it's like a whole lot of petitioning, and she's trying to get the public on her side. And she does, and they do, and they get everyone, the parliament, to change the laws. They discover who Rhys's father actually is, which is like crazy. He ends up having like a long lost family that he never knew about, and they happen to come from the same country that Bridget is a part of, is ruling. And um there's spice, and the spice is nice, and it's, it does what it does for spice. um and it was a really good book. The HEA was very satisfying. That's the word. The HEA was very satisfying. Miss what is Huang, she wrote a good story. I liked it. And like I said, contemporary royal romances are not my thing. But this was a good one. And it's actually a book that, I could see myself rereading like later on down the road, just to have something like nice and cozy to read. Like, I liked how she put it together. I liked the found family aspect of it. I liked how there was no messy misunderstanding third act breakup. Um, and how the couple got their HEA. It was a good read. So if 4 stars for this one, by the way. Why did I take a star away? Um, Really just because of and it has nothing to do with the writing. Honestly, Anna Huang did a great job writing it. And that's why the star rating system, personal opinion here, guys, I think can be so tricky for for readers, because it's so subjective. It's so subjective. And even if I put a rating on any of the books that I'm reading, um and I might stop doing that, because I feel as if it could give you the impression that, if it's 5 stars, like, books are not hotels, like, they're just, reading is such a subjective pastime, and it really depends on the reader's tastes, likes, dislikes, what speaks to the person. So for me, I thought this was a 4 star read, just for my own personal tastes. Um, but for you and others, it might be a 5 star read. And that's okay too. So go on, pick it up if it sounds like something you're interested in. Um, Take a dive into the Twisted series by Anna Huang. I've read 2 books so far out of the series, and I intend to go through and read the whole series, because I do like, when authors write a series of books, I do like to read the whole series, even if they are standalone books. But in interconnected series, it doesn't matter. I feel like I just need to read it because they wrote it, and I want to see, I want to read everybody's story. But pick it up and enjoy it. And even if you don't enjoy it, it's okay. Keep on looking for the book that you'll love. All right. Well, guys, that wraps up another episode. Tell me in the comments if you like contemporary royal romances. Like, how do you feel about those? I think those are so tricky. And again, that's just another subjective thing too, right? Because some people might completely love them and like think they need to write more. Um, but let me know what you're thinking. And I will talk to you next time. I've got to go get some more reading done. And I hope you do the same. And remember, just keep on reading. Bye.